welcome back this week to another evening at Beyond the Trailer Park. And yes, we are here this time around. So sorry everybody about last week, but all I just want to say is family member needed us, and that was more important than doing a show, so we decided to go take care of business instead. So thank you to all of the kind and helpful comments and inquiries we got. Everybody's cool, everybody's fine, but we just needed to take care of some stuff that was a little bit more important, so we appreciate everybody's understanding on that. So first of all, of course, always from Pennsylvania, we are joined by Beth. How's it hanging over there?
It's a hanging. They're not down to the floor yet, but they're trying.
And how melted are you?
Well, I'm trying not to use my AC because my electric bill is out there, even for an efficiency. It's not working so well.
Oh dear.
It didn't help that last year both of my fans croaked, so I have to get a new fan. And a new vacuum now, because my vacuum croaked the other night in the middle of cleaning.
Oh my gosh, woman.
Jeez.
It's like, ugh. Well, everything was, when I moved back to PA, everything's like 7, 8 years old, so it's like, yeah. And I'm, as most people know, I'm a very heavy smoker, so, yeah. I killed both my fans last year.
If anyone wants to set up a fund, we can hire a couple of hot babes to stand and fan her for the rest of the summer.
Ooh.
No, they gotta have brains. I don't care if they're hot.
Okay, so
I prefer some stimulating conversation.
Well, how about if we get a really sexy, like, physicist who's also, you know, just dancing and discussing theoretical physics with you while giving you a little dance. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and in case anybody's wondering, joining us from the even hotter part of Florida.
She should be talking.
I know. We have Miss Korrine over from the Wayward Atheist podcast. Good evening.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And I don't know if Miss Ashley's going to make it. She's going on vacation. And, of course, you know how bosses are. They dumped a crap ton of work on her that has to get done before she leaves tomorrow. Yay. Or Wednesday, whenever the hell it is. So she said she's going to try and make it, but we'll see. So, you know, hey, we got Miss Korrine. We're all good. Right?
Don't call me Miss Korrine.
At least we can't blame the kids this week.
I call people Miss whatever all the time, though, even if they're like married and stuff. It's just a thing.
Really?
Yes.
That's a Southern thing, not a hoser thing.
Yeah.
I was married to a Southerner for 4 years, so what can
right. Can I say something? Yeah. This is awesome because I'm actually part of the majority right now, being American, and there's only one hoser. On Wayward, we have 3 hosers, so this is really just a special treat for me right now.
3 hosers and a Kiwi.
Yep.
Oh, well, that's okay. But you see, this is coming from Hoserland, though, so you might be in the majority, but I still got my finger on the button.
So if you go just like that, there will be an explosion?
Yes, like that. For those of you who are just listening, you might want to pop over to the video for a second. Yeah, Miss Korrine. See, I call everybody Miss whatever. It's just the thing.
But you knew what you did when you asked me to come on.
Yes, I did. She told me before we went live that I'm the worst hoser she knows too. So.
She's a terrible hoser.
Yes, me calling people Miss whatever is probably part of that too.
You've been hanging out with Ashley too much.
You know what?
She doesn't watch hockey.
I hate hockey. The only time
How
I've
could
ever
you hate hockey?
it's bleh. The only time I've ever enjoyed watching a hockey game when I was drunk, stoned, and knew I was going to get laid immediately after the game. That was the only time I've ever enjoyed watching hockey on television. And watching it in person was even worse because my roommate at the time, she had a crush on the varsity goalie and would drag me to the damn varsity games just so she could watch him. And even though he didn't even know that she existed, but I had to go and like watch the damn games so she could go and woo whatever his name was, because I don't remember and it was a long time ago. But yeah, so now I've done like hockey at all, and it's kind of funny. The other night I was on Skype with Ashley, and my mother called, and so I just normally, because, and yes, commence with the BlackBerry laughter, but where the touchscreen mute button is on my phone, my earlobe tends to mute people that I'm talking to if I hold it like a phone. So I usually put people on speakerphone and hold it out in front of me. So I was like, hang on, Ashley, it's my mother on the phone. So I like talked to my mother for a minute because she wanted us to go over for dinner last night, whatever. It was nothing major. And Ashley comes back, she's like, holy shit, you don't, your mother sounds way more Canadian than you do. Like, okay. So apparently, when I used to train on new hires at my job, and so I used to talk all day, I used to get accused of being American all the time. And I know, and Corinne's gonna lose her shit laughing now. So, yeah, see, she's got her hand over her mouth. It's okay. You can let it out. It's fine. Yeah, she's choking on her own laughter. Yes, I used to get accused of being American quite regularly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Ashley says that my mother sounds super duper Canadian and me not so much. It was rather funny at the time. Oh well. So this week, well, we got kind of the same stuff on the table as last week, but I thought since Corinne was joining us, you just came back from Alabama and Pride celebrations and such. I thought you could talk to us a little bit what that experience was like, because that's one place I've never ventured into.
Well, neither had I. This is my first time in ever being in Alabama.
Her message to me when she got back was, fuck Alabama.
Yeah, and fuck Valdosta, Georgia as well.
Okay, well, do tell.
Okay, so Montgomery, Alabama, and mind you, I was going for Pride, but I was really going to see Zandy and Nick.
Yeah.
But holy shit, what a shithole town. But her house is fucking gorgeous. But there was a lot of really cool people there. I mean, it's a small Pride community, and it was their first year. So hopefully next year it'll be even better.
That's interesting. I always thought of Montgomery as a pretty large town.
I don't know, but it's large, I guess, but it still sucks.
So, well, it's like she was saying on the one episode, there's parts of Alabama that their sewage is just a hole in the ground. But yet the town has gotten money, and not specifically Montgomery, but these townships have gotten money, but it's just not going for what it's going to. I mean, they're allocating funds that should be for sewer is going to line someone's pocket, basically. And that's rampant in Alabama and Mississippi.
It wasn't like, pits with poop in it or anything. It was just, the downtown area wasn't much of a downtown area.
It's kind of like sounds like Wichita.
Yeah, it was different. But I mean, like I said, I really did. I spent a day there. I mean, Melina and I drove. We left here at, I guess, midnight or something, and we got to Alabama. We were there for the day, and then we left early Sunday afternoon. So I didn't really get to see a lot of Alabama, but the Pride event itself was really fun. I met some really, really awesome people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Did you see like the powerhouse or any of that stuff, or was that?
No, because it's for weekdays. I gotta have to figure out a time to get out there on a weekday because I would really fucking love to do that.
Yeah, and if anybody's not familiar, so Nick and Zandy are friends of the show, and Zandy was my roommate at ReasonCon last year, and she and Nick, when Nick just recently managed to get over, and they got married not too long ago, but they volunteer at the abortion clinic in town, and they're escorts to help women get in the clinic with the least amount of harassment as possible. But right next door to the abortion clinic is a house. And when the lease came up, their group managed to get the lease and are renting the house. And they call it the Powerhouse. And they create it as a sanctuary for women who are coming and going from the clinic, or their supporters or family or whoever's coming with them. But they also do other sort of community outreach. I think they do some LGBT stuff there and whatnot, and because they have their regular Christian fuckwad protesters every damn day, to the point, the last time I talked to Nick and Zandy over in Holy Crap, Nick had just helped finish building a big sort of vinyl screen that went across the property so that the protesters couldn't stand there and because they would try and video and photograph these poor women to try and intimidate them into not doing what they had decided to do, and that's just wrong. And the people that, like, it's on my bucket list, like I really want to go down there for a few days and escort with them, because we don't have that problem here, and I think it would be a valuable experience to go and see what those assholes look like in person, and give them a bit of their own grief.
And speaking of abortion, unless y'all have been living under a rock, the Supreme Court today came back with a ruling concerning HB2 in Texas and basically shot it down, which for those of us, and it's not, just to be plain and simple, they claimed it was for women's health. It was never, ever about women's health. So huge, huge, huge win on the Supreme Court. Basically, it took out the requirement that a abortion center be a surgical care center. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. There's some places that can do surgeries not in a hospital, and so these clinics had to meet the standards that they had, and for most of them, it basically shut down 9 of the 19 clinics in the state of Texas.
Yeah, and they had stupid rules, like your hallway had to be large.
Had to be 3 feet wide, and I mean the requirements were absolute. And then the other requirement was that an abortion doctor, had to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital, with the assumption that there are complications with abortion. But I haven't read the ruling yet, so I don't know the nitty-gritty, but it came down to is that it was pointed out during oral arguments that you can have colonoscopy I can't say that word without in a clinic that does not have surgical. So there's worse surgery, mobile surgeries that have more complications than abortion. that are allowed to do these things, whereas they're we're trying to rule that they couldn't. For most 20-week abortions, from my understanding, is basically you take a pill. Anything over 20 weeks, that's a whole different ball of wax. But these are basically, from my understanding, dealing with abortions up to the point of viability, which is 20 to 22 weeks, depending. So, I mean, a huge win on the Supreme Court today concerning abortion. Although it's not going to stop them, regretfully, because they literally have a think tank where they come up with all this bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Roy Moore in Alabama, this is why I bring it up, is part of that group.
Yes.
You've heard me speak of Peter Kreeft. He's also in on it, and Robert P. George is another think tank person that does it. He actually has a very brilliant legal mind. I just wish he'd use it for good instead of for this bullshit.
Yes. Did your air conditioner come on by any chance?
It's been on.
Okay, because all of a sudden I'm hearing like a vacuum noise.
So am I.
Korrine, is that you?
No.
Okay. I don't know where it's coming from.
I just heard a car honk.
Oh, yeah, a horn honked outside, but that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, it's quiet now, so we'll see. But yeah, no, that's really good. And the other interesting thing I read or saw this week was poor old Steven Anderson got kicked out of crowdfunding. Aww.
Who fucking hell?
Yeah, he got, well, PayPal, iTunes are two of the ones that we would be familiar with. He has found an alternative, although from what I understand, they're going to try to dox him on that one as well. Yeah, he had a little temper tantrum and climbed up on his podium. I actually, Hemet Mita from Friendly Atheists actually did a really nice write-up that I stole, but if you look at the picture of that sermon, and I think it was Jeremiah 19 he was using, I can't remember off the top of my head, but in the audience, where the part of the clip they show, there may be 15, 20 people, and there's like 7 children.
Yeah.
And that to me is just gross. I mean, it's like a friend of the show, I'm not going to mention names, but she actually wants to go and picket their church because she's not that far from it.
Oh, yes.
But she basically says she's kind of afraid to, because both he and his wife, Susanna, who is, I hate to say this, in my opinion, a mail order fucking bride, because the guy's so fucking gay. I mean, he is so far in the closet. Well, if you read his bio, he talks about something that happened when he was like 17 or 18 that turned him on to the Lord, and I'm thinking, yeah, you probably went to a re-education camp.
Yeah.
And they got...
Those things are atrocious.
Really, well, I used to teach at one.
I know.
The thing is, if you really read his bio and read some of the stuff that he talks about in his bio and some of his sermons, this guy, to me, is a classic case of a self-loathing faggot. And I use that word because, in my opinion, he's terrible. But his hatred and vile, I know when I went to school for ministry, we were taught to preach, the life of Christ. He very rarely ever, he's what I call a fire and brimstone preacher. And like Donnie Romero, who he actually shepherded, he's the other one. And Jimenez, who he actually shepherded, he basically, quote, ordained those two. They were part of his shepherding movement to expand his church. And those are the 3 that are in the news now because, I don't remember if it was Jimenez or Romero, the landlord said, nah, we're not renewing your lease next year, so he's out of the building.
Woo!
Yeah, so people, I mean, they actually make Westboro look good.
I would love,
that's how,
I really would love if somebody would paint over that stupid mural behind his podium with, like, I don't know, a giant mural of a fabulous gay orgy or something. I
how
think that
about
would
just
be,
a dick?
yeah,
Because, I mean, really,
with a mouth.
if you think about it, if you listen to his sermons, and I've listened to enough of them, he is so obsessed with guys' dick. And what, not women, I'm
Yeah,
talking with what men do together with each other. I mean, even Westboro is to a degree, but at least they're consistent.
yeah,
But I mean, he's your typical fire brimstone. You know, he preaches Old Testament. Very rarely does he touch on the New Testament, and that's what he was taught. And it's like it's horrible because really, if you think about it, Christianity per se is not an Old Testament religion. It's New Testament.
yeah.
So he's not even teaching what he should be teaching. But I mean,
So what we're basically saying is somebody should set him up with Pastor Manning.
oh yes.
Because those two are so obsessed with dick and what comes out of dicks.
Oh my gosh, Pastor Manning has this obsession, and it's not just like, you know, the gays and the homos. He says that, and you know, the lesbos and all that. But
At least he gets me included.
It's his obsession with the rectum. He keeps talking about the rectum.
Yes,
and you know, I'm like, he really wants his dick in a rectum. That's just, or he wants one in his, because that's just some serious denial.
Did you ever see where he talked about how he thinks people really like the taste of semen, and that's why it's in Starbucks? And I think it might have been when he was on the Young Turks, even, and they were like, "So you like that stuff?" He's
yes.
Like, people all like it, you know. It's got to be good. And I'm like, what?
No, I think it was on the Young Turks one where he said that he did in fact have gay thoughts.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this guy is, I mean,
because he's like, I did 3 years in prison. Of course, I thought about it, and they're like, oh.
Oh, Sugg probably had a field day with. He probably was biting his tongue.
I think so. Yes.
He can be very biting in his commentary, but you can tell sometimes that he's just biting his tongue and that he wants to say something.
Yeah. And I mean, and this is you can just imagine, because that's on a newscast where they say "fuck" all the time. So
well, the thing Adam Rakes did that cut up of it.
Yes.
Which was beyond epic. I mean, the comedy value. I mean, this guy's low-hanging fruit, but the comedy value of it. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder how I missed that. I'll have to go back and look for it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you don't even have to write comedic material for your podcast. All you got to do is play that asshole.
Well, when we did the conspiracy theory show, I went because I was meaning to watch Alex Jones, and I happened to pick an Alex Jones that had Manning on it, and I was just sitting there going, you two just want to fuck. Like, just go get a room and get it over with and be done with it, because that's what you want to do. Like, I'm sitting there going, I'm watching these two, like, basically salivate all over each other. It's kind of gross. Trippin had a comment there about, back to the abortion topic, so a lot of plastic surgeries are done in BS dirty doctor offices as well.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
And to drive that point home, and that was a point I want to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but I'm not sure, because as I said, I haven't read. I'm still kind of working my way back into this stuff again after taking a sabbatical. But I think that was actually one of the comments that Ruth Bader Ginsburg made in her concurring opinion, was that there's people their one complaint was that, oh, you know, these abortion clinics, they were trying to equate it to Ginsnell, who, if a couple years ago in Pennsylvania, in fact, I think in Philly, correct me if I'm wrong, Korrine, but he was an abortion doctor who rightly was put in prison for doing just some atrocious things that reminds me of the shit that went on in the 70s before Roe v. Wade. Now, granted, I was quite young, but I still do remember before Roe v. Wade. And I do remember reading the horror stories in the paper. I don't think a day went by that the Buffalo News, at the time Courier Express was still in existence, where they, you know, talked about back alley abortions. And this is the mentality the Reich was trying to promote, is that everything was Robert Ginsnell, and that's not the case. I mean, I've been to an abortion clinic, just more of a, I guess, a tour, for lack of a better word. Right. And some of these places, I mean, were just absolutely spotless. I mean, I have had friends who have had them, and not one of them was dealing with any type of surgical procedure. Most of them, I think all of them, took a pill and went back like 3 days later, and that was the end of it. You know, so the idea they're promoting, and they don't just do it with abortion, they do it with everything. I mean, they have such a hyperbolic straw man that they're arguing against, and not Roberts, Kennedy, who was basically, again, the swing vote. And he basically, because his vote was so important, he saw through that trick. I mean, that's the tactic they're using, is they're setting up this horrid straw man, whether it be abortion, whether it be gay rights, whether it be, you know, creationism. He saw through that and saw to the root of it, and I think that's what makes the ruling so important. And of course, you know, our three conservatives, Alito, Roberts, and what's his face, Thomas, who does not speak.
Always forget about the black dude.
Because he does not say anything. I mean, that man, I think, has said 2 words since he's been on the bench.
And that's been like, what, since the 80s?
Yeah, and that was just like a couple months ago. And the thing that's so funny, and I'm not making light of Clarence Thomas as a person, because from a legalistic standpoint, which I look at it, is all 3 of those men are very brilliant legal minds. Just like, you know, you hear me speak of Robert P. George, but that's how bad religious has twisted their views of life. It just in general is that, I mean, how can they use that much knowledge for what I consider just wrong? Yeah. I mean, it's mind blowing, because I look at somebody like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This woman, make all the jokes you want about her age, but I would not want to meet her in the back alley and go toe to toe with her on anything. I mean, you know, from a speaking standpoint, because that woman would wipe my ass. I mean, but you go to, like, you look at someone like, I can't really pick on John Roberts. I actually kind of like him. But it's Thomas. I mean, it's like, he just doesn't say anything, and it drives you nuts, because it's like, what are you thinking? What is your you can't even come up with a rationale other than to lead to the conclusion that it's his religion.
Yeah, maybe he thinks he can just be ambiguous and be like he thinks he's coming off as the wild card, because nobody really says, you know, he can't peg what he says, so it's I'm a mystery. You know?
Yeah, and the thing is, he, from a legal standpoint, he does have good arguments, granted for the wrong reasons, but it's just like, he's kind of like the wild card. The real wild card, though, is Roberts, in my opinion. I mean, Kennedy's pretty much predictable.
Yeah.
It's, although it does make it interesting with only 8 justices right now. But sorry, I got the hiccups all of a sudden.
I was like, it kind of surprised me that they actually came up with a decent vote on the Texas abortion issue with only an even number of them. So that's good. That at least proves that they can actually get shit done if they really put their minds to it.
Yeah. Well, it did. I think the biggest worry was that the 4-4 ties. And basically what it does is when you get that, if I understand it correctly, is that it automatically reverts to the lower court decision. Well, the lower courts, a majority of them, especially in the South, are controlled by conservative views.
Yeah.
So places like Texas, like Alabama and Mississippi, Florida to a degree, are ruled by very conservative justices. You have Alabama's kind of weird because you have Roy Moore, who's the head of the state Supreme Court, but yet most of the federal judges don't like him, even though they're conservative. They think he's gone too far. But
having been to Alabama once, I could say, just let the state go.
Yeah. Well, and
let it that in Texas.
Well, what's sad is now I have friends that live in Alabama, and there are, the majority of the people I've met from Alabama they might think along that lines, but they're kind of very laissez-faire. Just let things be. Like, if I want to go fuck somebody, fine. They don't care unless it really affects them personally. And someone brought that up in a meme recently that, it was a Nancy Reagan meme where, it's more against Republicans, but they use Reagan as the example, where she was against stem cells, she was against this until, she was against LGBT issues till her daughter came out. She was against stem cell research until Ronnie ended up with Alzheimer's. And that's the thing, with Republicans in general. Not all of them, but they don't give a shit unless it affects them.
Yep.
Everybody else, fuck them. And that's the mentality I run into here. It's like I point blank asked one of my friends when the whole ACA issue came out, when it first went into effect. I'm like, so you don't care that I now have health care for the first time in 10 years? And like, no. I was like, oh, so you're signing my death warrant? And they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, excuse me, I'm diabetic. This was even before my stroke.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, so it doesn't matter that I'm diabetic? Well, that's your own fault. I'm like, actually, no, it's not. It's because I was on psych meds. It's like, it's nothing I can control. I'm like, so you basically are willing to sign my death warrant? And they were like, yep. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality they have. If it does not directly affect them, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. You see that a lot. Hey. Oh, so the other crazy thing that I was going to talk about, and Beth and I had talked about this a bit last week, because I ran into one of these dumbasses in the crazy group, was these false flag assholes that were cropping up. And holy shit, like, I've seen some of the memes, and I get suggested some of the videos on YouTube, and I look at the title and I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sakes, whatever. Well, then I run into one of these assholes in the group, and he had put up a video that supposedly proved that Orlando was faked and all of this shit. And so I went toe-to-toe with the guy for a while, and he was just a total dipshit. And I'm sitting there going, why? What's the point? Like, because he put out this link that said, and since I don't even remember the time frame, but it was saying there had been 46 false flag operations probably since Obama came into power, but I can't be sure that's what it was. I don't remember, but 46 false flag operations. I'm like, so what did they accomplish with these 46 false flag operations? What was the goal? Well, our police state And I'm like, okay, Al. I'm like, let me go get my 80-year-old mother-in-law who spent part of her teenage years in East Germany, and we'll tell you all about what it's like to live in a fuckwad. It boggles my mind. And the things that they were saying, quote, proved it was false flag, was like, oh, none of the doctors at this hospital had their faces up on social media, or none of them had online reviews, or, it's like, oh, well, they just put their faces up on the hospital page like that week. I'm like, well, if it wasn't a thing that the hospital did, but suddenly they're getting press calling them, night and day, wanting to know about the doctors involved, maybe they figured it was a lot easier to pay somebody to do a write-up and slap it on the website so they could say, don't bug us, we're trying to, be
save
doctors.
lives.
Go read this shit on the website, and I said, and as far as online reviews, I said, I know I can't even think of one doctor I'm familiar with right now that does have an online review. I know mine doesn't. Like, yes, it's becoming a thing, but it's not a thing for everybody. Like, come on. Or they were saying this one video, they were carrying someone who had been wounded in the leg, and there was two men carrying him like in the seated position, and another person kind of walking behind that I assume was an acquaintance or something. And it shows them like walking down the sidewalk, and then they kind of stop when they get to the end of the sidewalk, and they set the man down who's only been shot in one leg, and you can see him kind of hopping, and then the two paramedics, like, one kind of, pats the other guy on the back, like, reassuring the guy or whatever, and the other civilian, I mean, because, come on, people wear pants down to their fucking ankles these days. He jumped up and pulled his pants up a bit, and they're like, see, they were acting. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And my favorite was a meme, and it had 4 people from the shooting. So I think a parent, a survivor that hadn't been injured, and then a couple survivors that had been injured. And they had gone and searched the internet for people, actors that looked like them, and said, see, look, they're all crisis actors. And I said, how fucking stupid is it that if you know you're going to be involved in a global conspiracy as a crisis actor, that you're going to put your CV up on the internet with your fucking face for everybody to just Google you the same day and go, oh, look, he's an actor. Like, come on, people. I cannot believe the stupidity involved in that shit.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of that conspiracy theory stuff in Canada? Because you guys just seem so much more rational than...
We don't. Like, I'm sure we have them, but I've never met a conspiracy nut job up here.
But not like in the United States, where they have, their own reality TV shows and everything.
Yeah, no. We do not have the Canadian version of Alex Jones. No.
Oh, did you have to bring that name up again?
Sorry.
Oh gosh, it's torturous. Although I love when Tom and Cecil have him on, or play him.
Well, I mean, he's amusing in small doses.
Yes. I mean, how many followers does that guy actually have? I mean, people actually listen to this shit?
Yeah,
I don't know.
He actually has quite a bit.
Ugh.
And that's, I don't know if you guys have heard the term Alex Jones effect, but it actually is real. And in the last, although it might be starting to wane a little bit, but he's actually, amassed quite a good-sized media empire for being, quote, independent, not like CNN. But, I mean, everything he does is geared towards that. And what's really sad is that his money-making is the pay-to-click bullshit in his affiliate marketing and people falling for that shit. It's just the same thing like Jim Bakker is a good example. I mean, he's got Survivor bullshit on his website. And I guess, I can't remember who it was, but they actually bought one of his food thingies and actually prepared it. And
I have some in my cabinet.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was actually cooks. There was some chefs that bought it.
Yeah.
And even they couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, it was so bad that, yeah, you would have to be, like, starving to even eat this stuff. It was just horrendous. I mean, I've been on the bottom of the barrel, and I even with it's like they couldn't do anything with this stuff. It was just that bad. And
Wow.
Did you hear that his suggestions of making furniture with the boxes?
Yeah.
Just keep buying it, and these tubs they'll look great under your coffee table,
Oh my god.
Let me guess. He's got a giant electrical spool as his coffee table, right?
Yeah.
My dad bought some not knowing what it was. Like, he thought they were MREs.
Right.
And he's like, "You want a bag of this stuff?" I was like, "What the fuck? Wait, you know what? Yeah, I do want one." It's fucking funny.
So your dad paid $2,500 for some pasta?
Oh, no. He just got, like, a small thing.
Oh, okay.
So just so people know, we've gone up a hoser. Joining us is David, also from the Wayward Atheist podcast. Howdy, Dave.
Howdy, how are you guys?
We're good. He comes from us all the way from the nation's capital region. So Trudeau,
Ottawa.
yeah, Ottawa. Trudeau mania,
No, I
right?
said blah, Ottawa.
Well, you guys are having a big party this weekend, so that'll be good.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. There's actually in the summertime. There's tons of festivals here.
Yeah.
So how does one celebrate the day of a fake country?
With fireworks.
By fireworks and copious amounts of alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
Can a friend of mine from back in Philadelphia, I don't know if he's still listening or watching, but could I just like say hi to Lawyer Joe?
Sure.
Yeah, fucking pervert.
Hello, Lawyer Joe. Pervert.
I miss you,
You
buddy.
guys want to hear a story or what?
What's that, Dave?
You guys want to hear a story or what?
Sure, tell us a story.
Is this the story I already heard?
Well, you didn't hear all of it.
All right, I'll be right back. I'll be 2 seconds. You could start.
Okay.
So Sunday night ritual at my house is I watch Game of Thrones and get fucked up when I watch Game of Thrones. And I pause it and I go out for a smoke and I come back in. My dog has figured out how to open up the screen door on his own. If you don't lock the screen door, he'll just rip it right open.
And let's just be clear here, Dave doesn't have a dog, he has a horse that looks like a dog.
I have a dinosaur. Yeah, he's a monster. Anyway, so I'm downstairs and I hear the screen door get ripped open, so I go running upstairs and to witness my dog barreling down on a skunk.
Oh no!
He's got the fucking thing in his mouth and it sprays, so he quickly lets go of the skunk. But at this point, I can't let the dog in the house, and the skunk has forgotten its way out of the yard. So now it's me, the dog, and the skunk trapped in the backyard. So I pick up, I hadn't put my snow shovels away yet because, you never know. It's Canada. So anyways, I pick up the snow shovel, and the skunk is underneath my patio set. And I'm clanging on the patio set, and I'm shaking the fucking shovel at it. And you would think that a little 7-pound animal having a big-ass snow shovel shaking at it, it would run away. No, not this fucking squirrel. He's on skunk. He's on steroids. He starts bouncing up and down. He's scratching at the patio stones. He's stomping back and forth. He's flipping around, and I'm like clang, clang, clang. And I can see my dog. He got it in the face, so his eyes are watering. His nose is leaking. So I finally get the fucking skunk out of the yard. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with the dog? So I had to leave the dog outside all night. My neighbors are hating me right now because it poured and he cried the entire time. But the kicker to this is the exact same thing happened last year. I was watching Ray Donovan, not Game of Thrones. Fucking dog opened up the door, went barreling out, and got sprayed in the face by a skunk. 2 goddamn summers in a row. I really got to remember to lock that door or get a smaller dog.
How many times will it take you to learn?
How many times will it take his dumbass to learn?
That's what I was thinking. Like, you think he would have figured that out the first time around? Jeez. Now, see, this would have been good if you could have, caught the skunk and mailed it to Steven Anderson or something.
I'm gonna catch that fucker, all right.
Dave is on a mission to destroy this skunk. The way he was talking before, it was like I half expected to see him in frickin' Army Ranger gear, sniper rifle. All right, fucker.
So looking like a Trump supporter.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, there you go. Just to backtrack a little bit, Chris Sampson, hello, Chris, from the Pandemonium. Once was the UK, sent us a link in the Q&A to one of the doctors that we were talking about, how they're saying, they didn't have an online presence. He sent me, his profile from, I guess he went to Yale School of Medicine, so it's if you actually, because what this person was showing me was, it was, screenshots of somebody who just Googled the name, and then they, you know how Google will sometimes preview some of the pages on the right, and they were circling, well, see, there's no review here. It's like they didn't even leave fucking Google page to go and look at what actually was out there, which was kind of fucking stupid. So
one of the biggest thing about reviews of medical doctors, unless the doctors themselves actually make it into the news for whatever reason, very rare will you find a review. It's just not something that is done, and usually the reviews you find are shit reviews. They're, for poor service or whatever.
Yeah.
And so a Yelp review of a doctor means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I mean...
And I don't think it was Yelp per se, but it was the medical equivalent kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's becoming an in thing to leave a review, but for some reason the medical field, whether doctor, dentist, is not prone to that type of review process. Restaurants seem to be the biggest one, and hotels, motels, but really it's because it's such an individualized field dealing with your clients, you know. Although there's some groups trying to push for more medical reviews, but it's just not. Yeah. So not having a review is not unusual.
Well, I actually see on Health Grades a lot, tons of doctors are reviewed.
Yeah, there's specific websites, but not a lot of people know about them. Those that do are usually anti-vaccinationists.
Yeah. Or there are people who want to give them a bad review because they didn't give them their fucking drugs or some shit.
Yeah,
exactly. And the thing is, too, and this is where these review systems in general can be an issue, is it's so people are far less motivated to go out of their way to compliment a business or a person than they are, because when you feel like you're slighted or that you've been treated poorly, then it's like, I'm going to tell everybody that asshole did blah, blah, blah. Whereas if it was good, you're like, wow, that doctor was really good. I'm definitely going to keep going back there. And all people tend to do. Like, you're not going to be out there going, oh, I had a great experience, because and also in Canada, you just can't call any doctor and get an appointment. You have to be accepted as a patient to that doctor before you can just like go there. So the Yelp reviews, the style reviews, are only somewhat useful if you've been basically assigned that doctor. You can look that up and kind of be like, oh, this person had a bad experience, I should be a little wary, that kind of thing. Like, for instance, if I wanted to switch doctors right now, what I would have to do is there's a number to call where you call and you say, yes, I do have a doctor right now. I'm not happy with them. I would like to be put with a different doctor, and then they will research who's accepting patients in your area, and they will kind of set up a consult for you. But you just don't walk into an office and say, I want to be your patient, right? It just doesn't work that way here.
That's one thing.
Well,
universal. Your healthcare is so much better. However, I do like the fact that I could be choosy about my doctors because. Well,
it's not like I can't be choosy. It's just that there's more of a process involved in doing that. So, like, I would have to go for a consult with another doctor, and then if I called back and said, no, that one, I'm not happy with that person either, they would have to go find another one, right? And also, as far as walk-in clinics, now I can go to any walk-in clinic at any time, but those guys, you never know who you're going to see there. They could also decide to refer you elsewhere as well. So there's processes involved, but it's so I can do it. It's just not snap your fingers, do it kind of.
Well, I think a lot of what that prevents too is, well, at least in this area, we have a huge opiate problem here, especially pain pills. And it's not just Meyer, it's the whole of Pennsylvania. In fact, article or paper, I'm not sure which, I haven't read it yet, it just came out saying where the opiate addiction in PA is just horrendous. And I think I mean, I've buried 2 people in the last 10 years, and these are young people. In fact, a couple of us were just discussing it the other day, pain pills versus pot. Well, I can't use pot because it messes with my bipolar, so I have to rely on pain pills. And even though I have a prior addiction to them, I don't have that issue anymore, and I'm very careful with them. But I think what it prevents is the doctor hopping that's very, very prevalent in this area. We have 1, 2, 3 clinics, and we had 2 independent doctors. And basically, if you couldn't get your pills from Dr. A, you went to Dr. B, but you didn't tell him you went to Dr. A. We also had 3 pharmacies for a while. We're down to 1 now. And so it's a lot harder. In fact, 2 of the doctors got nailed basically for writing scripts wantonly for pain pills.
It's in every state, every city. I know, because I review people's medical and pharmacy records at work regularly, and you'll see them have 20 different doctors, and they go to 10 different pharmacies, and they're all prescribing them opiates.
Yeah, you can't do that doctor hopping thing for prescriptions here because everything is tied to your OHIP card, and they swipe that, they can get your complete medical history. Also, our healthcare system is not as prescription happy as yours is, because yours is for profit. So the more things are pushed there, the better off it is. I'm not saying that doctors don't prescribe medications here. It's just it's not as prevalent that you're gonna walk out of there with a prescription when you go to the doctor here.
And the other thing with ours too is if you get a prescription. I don't know. I think a lot of, if you have good medical insurance down there, I think that medications are covered, correct?
Yeah, some are.
Most of mine are either 10 or $5.
And that's the other thing that people don't understand with the quote free healthcare is that our medications are not covered unless you're in the hospital.
Well, mine are 100% covered.
Well, but do you have other insurance?
Insurance, yes, work
Yeah.
insurance. Well,
Is that
work insurance.
is that the herpes medication or the?
No, I had herpes, but my crabs ate them. Okay, I'm gonna have to love you guys and leave you though.
Oh,
get it and quit it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Now we are going to talk about Islam. You have to bugger off. So.
Okay, 5 minutes. Go.
I have a short video that I was going to play about Islam. It was originally a 6-minute video, but I'm coming in about 2 minutes in, so it's like a 4-minute video. And then I was going to discuss that. So let me put that on. So that'll take about roughly 4 minutes, and then I want to discuss what they had to say during said video. So here we go.
Can we have the camera? Can we have this camera focusing on all the audience, sir? Can we have this camera focusing on all the audience? Because every now and then, every time we have a conference, every time we invite a speaker, they always can come with the same accusations. This speaker supports death penalty for homosexuals. This speaker supports death penalty for this crime or that he is homophobic. They subjugate women, etc., etc., etc. It's the same old stuff coming all the time. And we always try to tell them, I always try to tell them that, look, it's not that speaker that we're inviting who has these extreme radical views, as you say. These are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things. Just because they're not telling you about it, or just because they're not out there in the media, doesn't mean they don't believe in them. So I will ask you, everyone in the room, how many of you are normal Muslims? You're not extremists, you're not radical, just normal Sunni Muslims. Please raise your hands. Everybody, mashallah, subhanallah. Okay, take down your hands again. How many of you agree that men and women should sit separate? Please raise your hands. Everyone agree. Everyone agree. Brothers and sisters. SubhanAllah. So it's not just these radical sheikhs then. Allahu Akbar. Next question. How many of you agree that the punishments described in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether it is death, whether it is stoning for adultery, whatever it is, if it is from Allah and His Messenger, that is the best punishment ever possible for humankind, and that is what we should apply in the world. Who agrees with that? Allahu Akbar. Are you all radical extremists? SubhanAllah. So all of you are saying that you are common Muslims, you all go to the different masajids, no way, or are you like a specific sect, like the Islam net sect or anything like that? Are you like that? No. Are you like that? Please raise your hand if you're like this extreme Islam, that sect or anything like that. No one. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar. So what's the politicians gonna say now? What's the media gonna say now? That we're all extremists? We're all radicals. We need to deport all of us from this country. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Takbir. 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 May we have the next question, please?
Yeah. So.
Well, since Dave, I know, has to go soon, yes, let's let him have the first say.
You go ahead.
So that video has actually been out a little while now.
Yes.
I've seen that before,
okay,
and It's absolutely not a shock, not a shock to me. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm stand firmly against Islam and don't really believe that there is such thing as moderate. Well, you can say that maybe they're moderate compared to ISIS, but compared to regular society, secular society, or even a lot of Christian society, they are extreme. That is an extreme view. Everything that he just said there, where he was trying to play it off like it's not extreme, it's all extreme. It's all the same fucking bullshit. If you're willing to kill gays, or you think gays should be put to death, you want to put your woman in a fucking bag, you're an extremist cunt. And that's just it, plain and simple. There's no other language for it. You act like an asshole, you get treated like an asshole, and that guy's a fucking asshole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the way he was saying, oh, well, the Quran says, punish adultery by stoning, just like it's normal. People say, do you agree with that? Yes. Are you an extremist? No. But I'm sorry, I fucking hate Islam. I hate all religion, but I fucking hate Islam. And I am so sorry, but don't expect me to give you any kind of leeway, and everybody's giving the Muslims leeway these days, and it pisses me off. They should be held just as accountable as anybody fucking else.
And the thing is, and well, first of all, Chris Sampson, I wanted to read his comment. He goes, way to give a positive outlook on Islam to deliberately confirm that they all hold horrible beliefs. I think they need to fire their PR guy. But
Absolutely.
the quote, moderates are the cherry pickers. That's what they're doing. They're sitting there going, yeah, I don't think stoning people for adultery is a good idea, so we'll just ignore that part, and we'll find some spin doctor tafsir to explain that shit. But I'm still a nice, good Muslim, those are the cherry pickers.
Yeah, but Deb,
I'd rather a cherry picker than a fucking terrorist.
Yeah, but I've found even with the cherry pickers, with Muslims, when you're debating them, you kind of have to chase them down. They don't. It's not the same as debating a Christian. You kind of have to chase them down from point to point to point, and you will eventually find a point that they have an extreme view on, whether it's homosexuals or whether it's the non-believer issue.
Right.
100% of the time that I know it's anecdotal, but my experience debating them online, you will catch them on a point. At the very least, you'll catch them on the Jew point. At the very least, right?
Right.
So they all hold, and the other thing is too is that when you're talking to the cherry picker, you're talking to the cherry picker alone. You get that cherry picker in a group of those Muslims that were in that room right there, and they're going to be cheering and clapping the same way. And if something did hop off and there was a homosexual there, or they did decide to stone an adulteress, those cherry pickers would join in just as fast as the other ones would.
And that's what a lot of the polls that they've held in places like Egypt, and most people, we've grown up thinking of Egypt as well. Yeah, there are some Muslims there, but it's Egypt. But no, it's
a predominantly Islamic country.
It is. It's a very Islamic. But my view of Egypt growing up was not anything like I was in my 20s, I think, before I was like, oh, really? There's Muslims in Egypt? Oh, okay.
But we Canadian society, the Muslim thing. Growing up, it wasn't, especially like where I grew up, it was not like I didn't know any, like there wasn't a mosque where I grew up. Like,
oh, hell no. I mean, there were some Sikhs around here where I grew up, which are completely different. And so, you think, oh, a turban's a turban, but no, Sikhism is very, very different. So, yeah, I never encountered a Muslim until I was in university. And even then, like, she was very, quote, progressive. And the only reason I even figured out she was a Muslim is we were eating Oreos one night, and she's like, oh, I can't have those. And we're like, why? Well, because there's lard in them. And we're like, so? And she's like, well, I'm a Muslim. I can't eat pig, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, huh? Like, it was so foreign to us at the time. Like,
your God says that you can't have a ham sandwich, but you must hunt and seek the non-believers. And
yep.
Chop their
And
heads
that's
off.
why I get the drippiest package of pork chops at the store and go to the cashier that's Muslim.
Yeah, or I just poke a hole in the bacon and throw it on the halal chicken.
Oh, yeah, I do that
That's
too.
always awesome. That's always a fun thing to do.
Yeah. You
But
know what? They don't have halal sections over here in Jackson.
well, I guess not. I have to admit though, watching that the entire time he's talking, every time he says Allah, fucking Allah Akbar, I
Yeah.
imagine my fist meeting his mouth. It's so fucking annoying. I cannot
bothers
conversate with
me
him.
too.
I cannot conversate them. The shalalala hung and at the end of every fucking sentence.
That's how a lot of them speak.
I know it is.
My Arabic instructor, like every time, when I was doing something well, she's like, "Oh, mashallah, Jamila." I'm like, "Gotta be fuck."
But you know what?
Magically
Everything
enchanted
is
words to you too, bitch.
But that's cultish behavior. That is constant reinforcement of the cult idea. Because if you are focused on making sure you say the right thing at the right time all the time, you got no time to sit there and go, what the fuck am I doing this shit for? Because you're focused on the repetition, the ritual, and all of the trappings that go with it, and that is the reinforcement of the cultic ideal.
Well, I think that saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day with children at school is of a similar effect.
I agree. I always thought that was
that is exactly why it's not required to recite the pledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things they stress in. You do not have to recite the.
There are certain schools where you do have to, and it'll.
Well, by law.
By law they don't, but if you want to have
that's exactly why they push that agenda, because it is a cult-like behavior. They want to indoctrinate, but a lot of the kids nowadays, I think the American Humanist Association is pushing that if you don't want to say the pledge, don't say it. They will stand behind you. I think that's who's doing it. And yes.
Can I get an R?
Very funny, Mr. David. But I think it's funny because Dub and I were talking about this last week when I started the video clip. I could barely get 30 seconds into it, so it took me a good 6 hours to finally listen to the whole thing. And basically I said to Deb, I said, he just proved my point. There is no such thing as a moderated religion.
Well, and let's another comment from Chris here. He says, so many times I've known or worked with a Muslim and they seem normal and moderate for a while, and then one day they suddenly come out as pro chopping off heads or hands or victim blaming rape victims, etc.
That's exactly what I was saying. That they may seem moderate, and they may be moderate in this way, or they may cherry pick in this way, but there's going to be one issue where you'll be like, holy fuck, what the fuck just came out of your mouth? Do I need to defend myself here? Are you going to try to fucking, you know what I mean? And it's just the way the religion is. And without the religion, obviously the people wouldn't be that way. So I'm not like a anti Middle Eastern people. I'm anti their religion and the behaviors that their religion imposes on them.
Yeah. Well, there is an article that I sent you guys in chat, and it's called "The Josiah Effect: How Moderate Religion Fuels Fundamentalism." I haven't digested the whole article, but one part that popped out to me, and this is speaking in reference to actually Stephen L. Anderson, believe it or not, and it goes the change that I was talking about. The change the age to 18, in Anderson's words, perfectly describe my own experience. The author's talking here. He, too, was primed by years of religious upbringing to accept the Bible's content, change that to the Quran, as the Word of God when he picked it up as a teenager, and he embraced all of it, including the most abhorrent parts. How many jihadists have a similar experience with the Quran? In both Islam and Christianity, it is easy to dismiss fundamentalist doctrines as perversions of Scripture, but the fundamentalists have a defense against this charge. When people suggest that Anderson might be perverting Christianity, Anderson says, let's let the viewer read for themselves, and then he pulls the Bible off the shelf and he quotes Leviticus 20:13, and let them be the judge. And I think the crux of the argument for me goes to this: the disturbing truth is that Anderson, or any Islamic, is right. If you look up the verse or a verse in the Quran, you will find that it says exactly what he claims it says, just as the Quran says precisely what jihadists claim that it says. The simple fact is, what makes it so easy for fundamentalist clerics to convince vulnerable youth to subscribe to their destructive doctrine. What that dude in the video is saying basically is what is in the Quran. It doesn't matter whether you're a jihadist or an everyday Muslim. Do I think everyday Muslims believe that? No, I have friends who converted to Islam, and I know they don't believe that way. But yet their beliefs, they're going to this mosque or that mosque, supports that doctrine. Yes. You cannot separate. I mean, and I've said this before, the second you change one tenet of the faith because you don't agree with it because it's violent, i.e. killing homosexuals, then you are no longer Muslim, you are no longer Christian, you're no longer a Jew, you're no longer Hindu. If you want to call it Reformed or whatever, you are not Muslim, you are not Christian. And it's, I mean, that's what these guys like this guy in the video don't see. It is in your Quran. So if you believe that way, then, you know, you need to suffer the consequences of that belief, but your religion does not protect you from being a bigot or from being a fucking asshole. And this is why I like Dave, because he point blank said what he felt. And
it's true. It's true though, because if you look at in this country, Christians cherry pick so fucking much. And I mean, I'm not going to name any names in my, family members or what have you, but there are people in my family are like, oh, well, that's not a real Christian, and they're like, oh, Christianity's about love. Oh, well, you can't take it literally. I'm thinking you're basing your entire moral code and you're living your entire life on the fact that there is this afterlife from an ancient text that has been changed over and over, and that there is absolutely no evidence for, yet science has proven that there, and they have evidence of how the freaking universe works, and just the freaking, cognitive dissonance when it comes to this shit.
Go ahead, Deb.
No, you go first.
Okay. The one thing that I wanted to point out when Dune was talking was that, like no other religion, even extreme forms of Christianity, there's a Pentecostal church across the field behind my house. I see them doing their crazy fucking chanting and bullshit all the time. There's no group mentality like Islam.
No, and you see
it like I was saying, even the ones that you don't think have that potential, as soon as the group mentality kicks in, that it's there. So in my eyes, they all have the potential.
It's like when I debate them on Facebook or whatever, the posts, I'm getting to the point now where I can actually predict the link that they're going to throw at me, even though I've never talked to that particular Muslim before. It's like the groupthink is unbelievable. They sound the same, they post the same links, they come up with the same poor excuses for things. It's really, like, all religions are cults, I know this, but the activity in Islam is so over-the-top cultish that it amazes me that people don't seem to notice it. Like, that whole video, they had that fucking chanting in the background. That's creepy as shit. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get the with that
I think what people forget too specifically with Islam, at least in my experience, is that Islam is not just a religion. Islam is cultural.
It's a way of life.
It is a way of life. It is a political, socio-cultural phenomenon. It's not just religion. It embraces a totality of their life. Now, Christianity, I will jokingly say Sharia is coming to this country wrapped up in a flag, and that's going off a quote, I can't remember who it was from, but it's really, that is what, if you look at it, that is what the Reich wants. They want religion, their form of Christianity, to embrace the culture as much as Islam has embraced, you know, the Persian culture, the Middle Eastern culture. I mean, we have a, for lack of a better word, a moderate form. You were bringing up Egypt earlier. You know, where you guys, you know, like Deb, you didn't realize. Oh, it says, yeah, that's intentional.
Yeah.
It's just, is it a moderate form? To some degree, but is it right to use that term moderate? No, not when they're at the root of their beliefs is this fucking bullshit that they spout off in the mosque. And I'm not saying, you know, you know, as I say, you can be a moderate and say, oh, I don't believe that, but going to a mosque and supporting this religion in whatever way, shape, or form is bullshit. It's just like the Catholics that are against the diddling priest and say, well, I don't support that. The church is wrong, but yet you go and tithe every Sunday.
Oh,
You're still supporting the bullshit.
Let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask you a question. Can somebody tell me what the actual fuck is going on with people trying to blackwash the fact that the Orlando shooter was a Muslim and you know, called in, and I'm not saying he was actually part of ISIS, but the ISIS's media campaign certainly has sparked a lot of people to go out and do this kind of shit and to just whitewash it away and say, oh, it's only because he was gay and he didn't like being a homosexual. Well, actually, the FBI's found no evidence of the fact that he's gay. The rumors that he was on Grindr is a lie. They can't actuate any of the witness testimony that he was in the club. I'm not saying that it's a single issue that he was Muslim, but please stop throwing that out. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
I agree with that.
Well, the one I saw a video. It was on Rachel Maddow, which I never watched. It just happened to come across my news feed, and she was interviewing a former radicalized Muslim or jihadi or whatever you want to call him, who is gay. And so they were just talking, well, theoretically, if this guy was gay, why would he do this? You know, what did Islam have to do with it? And so now this was a week or so ago now, but they were kind of operating on the assumption that it seemed like he was probably gay. And the gentleman she was talking to said, you know, I had gay tendencies for most of my life, and he said now in Islam they don't believe anyone is gay, that you just have gay feelings, and that's a whole other ball of wax. So that just explains why he would use that type of language. But he said, you know, I didn't want to be gay because I was told that was a terrible thing to be. That's how I was raised. So he said, what I learned from my religion was the only way to, quote, cure the gay feelings was to become more religious. And he said, and to become more religious in Islam is to eventually become, quote, radicalized or become a jihadi or whatever. And he was actively thinking about planning like a homemade bomb attack. Now, he never did it. And I believe he might have done some prison time for planning. I don't remember, but he's like, I was the guy who was going to go out and blow up a bunch of people because I thought it would make up for me having gay feelings. So that, to me, if he is gay, and I realize that they've thrown doubt on that now, but if that him being gay was a factor, that makes a lot of sense to me, how Islam made him into the guy who would go and cold-blooded murder, you know, 40 people. 49 people. And he even said, some of the survivors said, he even called into the one bathroom and said, how many black people are in there? And somebody said, I don't remember the number, but it was more than half, I think. And the guy said, well, you know, I'm kind of sorry. I don't really have anything against you black people. Kind of deal. And it was just weird.
I mean, what it ultimately comes down to for me is the fact that 8 individuals slaughtered 50 people. I don't give a shit if he's gay. I don't give a shit if he's Muslim. He killed 50 people and injured 52. Now, being one that has had those feelings and had to fight through them, being a religious fundamentalist growing up, I had the wherewithal to know that killing another person is a wrong idea. You're not going to purge the so-called evil from your body by slaughtering people.
Right.
I can see where, like you, if his homosexuality is the factor, he is a Stephen L. Anderson. This man has so much self-loathing. He basically, in his mind, using his religion as justification, and that's all it is justification. Yeah. For his action.
Yeah, but the fact, okay, so you look at Islam, the religion itself, it's not Western culture. It opposes everything. It opposes everything about Western culture. So we definitely cannot ignore the.
Oh no, I'm not saying
you know
not
what I mean?
ignore it.
So if we can find the reasons why this guy did that, maybe we can educate ourselves and try to.
And therein, I think, lies the crux, so Dave, is if we can find the reason. And from the sounds of it, and I have been peripherally following this. I don't think we're ever going to, because religion complicates it to the point. Well, religion and politics complicate it to the point that.
Why can't it ever just be what the terrorist said, though? Why can't it ever just be, I did it because of my religion. So if he says I'm doing this because of my religion, why can't it just be that?
Exactly.
Why does the regressive left always have to come up with some batshit crazy excuse for fucktards?
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, you know, just take it to the root of what it really was, is some idiot decide to slaughter 50 people and injure 50. And that's what I have to keep it at, because I can sit here and go around in circles. Well, you know, obviously my studies have been more towards Christianity because that's what I grew up with. And it wasn't until I was about 20 years old where I finally, for lack of a better word, convinced myself that really homosexuality as we know it today, what we have in the 21st century, is not the same as the pagan homosexuality and cultic practices of of the Bible. It's not the same thing. We can't take 21st century values and place them on first century ideology. It's not the same. I was able to, for lack of a better word, convince myself that it's not even in the Bible.
Yeah.
At least what we know today. And that's how, for years, I was able to stay a Christian and be gay. So I rationalized it in my mind. But eventually, the whole ball of wax just fell apart when it basically came down to that, you know, we all know, except that the Bible is just man-made. Yeah. For whatever reasons you want to believe. And the same thing, if I were to study the Quran, it would probably come down to the same thing. It is man-made. Well, we know it's man-made because Prophet Muhammad supposedly wrote it.
Either way you look at it, though, if you take... If he wasn't gay, Islam is what taught him that gay is bad. If he was gay, Islam is what taught him that gay is bad. So it still comes back to Islam no matter what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a really hard thing. I mean, I don't want to... say blame for lack of blame a religion. It ultimately, for me, his religion became his justification. That's what he was taught.
Yeah.
And if the clips and the stuff I have seen of his father is any indication, that is what he was taught, and that was probably what his father was taught. That is what he was surrounded by. So yeah, to me, he's using religion, but he's using it to justify his atrocious actions.
Yeah, hang on one second, dude. I want to jump in on that. Okay, so if you take somebody from childhood and tell them that the Quran is the 100% perfect word, and you are told that Allah is 100% perfect, Muhammad is 100% perfect, behave in these manners, and it brings you closer to them. If you martyr yourself, you'll have the highest place in heaven. If you believe this stuff to 100%, I don't really think it's a justification. I think your brain has been warped into believing. So if you have somebody that maybe isn't as strong of mind or really fucking believes it, the religion is the root cause.
Well, and
without the, and I can't say this to 100%, so don't fucking kill me on Deb's chat.
Oh, right.
But without the religion sowing those ideas into your head, like, you know, gays should be killed, you're gonna get 72 virgins, maybe he wouldn't have even done it at all. So in my eyes, Islam is the key problem in stuff like this.
It goes from being a justification to a motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as I said, too, and I will be honest, and I do take what you say quite seriously, I appreciate your opinion. I have only peripherally been following it, so you probably have a shit ton more information than I do, because...
I'm not just talking about this one instance. I'm talking about a broad range.
Now, my last information was that ISIS, etc., has not really, quote, claimed responsibility. I don't know if that's changed since then, but I'm looking at it as comparing it to San Bernardino. And basically, these are jihadi wannabes to me, and that's
he was a wannabe. He was a wannabe. But the religion itself, like ISIS itself, so he may have been a loser and not actually in ISIS, but he trolled their websites. He knew what they were saying, and the religion put the motivating factor in, and ISIS was a motivating factor. I'm not saying that they were the only motivating factors, because a mass shooting like that is a very complex issue, especially in the States, with your lack of gun control, your gun culture in general. You add, maybe he's what they say, he was bipolar. You add that in, and add in Islam, and add in ISIS's social media campaign, and you have a powder keg. And it's a complicated situation.
I think you hit the nail.
Islam, just say we have a like a root, and Islam is the root, and those other things that I mentioned are tentacles coming off of it. Where Islam, though, is the main fucking root. And I don't care what anybody says. You don't see, like, you see one-off shooters that are doing it because of Christianity. Most of the time, the mass shooting from the right, the white right, it's political, it's ideological. But 100% of the time, when you're seeing somebody from the Middle East in the United States of America, or in fucking Uganda, or in Somalia, or any of the other places that have been hit since the U.S. that nobody talks about, 100% of the time, the motivation is Islam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think, too, going back to Dobbs' video, I think the opening line, I think, really sums it up. Islam is the truth, and Christianity and Judaism is not the truth. Mm-hmm. I mean, to them, everything they do is the proper, correct, right thing to do.
In fact,
it's just like...
And you have to...
are. I was watching another video from one of these twits, and they were talking about why you have to make sure that your meat is halal and all this shit. And they were saying that they were talking about, is it okay to eat at like McDonald's? Can you assume that the meat's okay? And he said, well, you know, technically, if it's butchered by someone who's, quote, of the book, then that should be technically okay. But just because somebody says they're of the book doesn't mean they're of the book, so blah, blah, blah. Like, they don't believe any, you know. They're just like, oh, well, yeah, Christians do whatever, you're all fucked and you're not Islamic. Even though the own damn book, it says they're supposed to give respect to the book people, but they don't believe that anybody really follows, quote, the book the right way anyway, so...
Okay, I'm really going to have to go now, though. I said 5 minutes, and it's been like 30, so I'm going to say goodnight.
Thanks for joining us, Dave.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Okay, listen to the Wayward Atheist. Wayward Atheist on Facebook, Twitter.
Don't worry, I'll fucking plug the shit out of you at the end.
Out of me? Yeah.
Out of our show.
With the strap on?
Yes.
Okay, right on. Okay, anyways, later, guys.
Later.
Bye, Dave.
Bye. Beth, Chris Sampson had a question. He said, Beth, what was better, modern or pagan homosexuality?
Do you like Ashtaroth and Baal?
I don't know.
See, that's the thing. I mean, what most people don't realize is that the homosexual acts, and this is how some people apologetize it, I'll make up a word there, is that it had nothing to do with a committed, loving relationship. I mean, me personally, I have friends that will fuck anything that moves. They'll readily admit to it. I'm like, no. It's like, I'd go for the modern. I'm sorry, I can't just have sex just to have sex. It just doesn't work.
So, and that's the difference, Chris, is that the pagan homosexuality was ritualistic in nature and wasn't meant as a... I mean, I'm sure there were people who were gay who did a lot of ritualized sex, but it wasn't seen in the same way as, hi, I'm gay, I'm going to have a gay partner, we're going to build a life together. It's, you know, I'm just going to spend a lot of time at the temple because, you know.
Yeah, it was pure and simple, just one thing. It wasn't for your pleasure. It was for worship and adoration of the gods that they were doing it for, and it mostly fell to Ashtaroth and to Baal. And yeah, sex is cool. No denying that. Jacking off is fun. Okay, but if I'm in a committed relationship, if I'm with somebody, it's for both of our pleasure, not for some fairy tale fantasy floating around in the sky, you know, having voyeuristic tendencies over my pleasure, because there is no pleasure, and that's where they try to equate homosexuality to that, and that is not homosexuality. Yeah, there are, I mean, just in any cult, what's the word I'm looking for? We'll just say anything. I mean, we're gonna have extremes, but most of the people I know are looking for long-term. This is why I do not understand bisexuality. Okay, for me, if I am looking for a partner, if I am going out on a date, I am looking for a long-term commitment in that person that I am interested in. And I know I probably have a very ignorant view of bisexuality, but for me to... I'll use Deb as an example. If I'm courting Deb, I'm going to want to spend the rest of my life with Deb. I'm not thinking about anybody else. I'm not looking at Joe Blow down, a few bar stools down, thinking, maybe I'll go with her. No. I'm looking at one person and one person only. And basically, it's the whole straw man argument. I mean, most of your fundamentalists have a view that basically we go to a bar and we're fucking everything that moves. Does that happen? Yeah, I have friends that do that. I don't understand how they do that, but they do. I'm very puritanical in my views. I have, my interest will be on one person.
Yeah.
And develops from there. If after the first couple dates we don't seem to click, whether it's emotionally, physically, whatever, I'm going to change my focus. There might be somebody else. But that's not what cult of practices were about. It was for the pleasure of your God. You were pleasing God by fucking anything that moved. And that's basically what they did. I mean, it was... We all have seen scenes of orgies. I mean, you fuck one person, you go on to the next, and that's what it was back then. And that's the view of homosexuality most fundamentalists have. The whole bathhouse thing.
Can I make an observation? That's not an orgy.
Oh.
Wow.
It's not.
No, I know. I'm like, man.
There's nothing.
Either Beth is a prude or I'm a total whore. Like
both.
I will readily admit I am very puritanical in my views towards sex. And it's just because I will be blatantly honest. I could give two shits about it. That's not what I'm in a relationship for. It's a fucking bonus, people. I'm single. I have been for 7 years. If I physically hit it off with somebody that we want to go and have sex, fine, so be it. But that's not what I'm in it for. So my views are very warped in that sense.
And that's not warped. That's not warped because everybody.
Some people.
But everybody approaches a potential relationship with different things in mind. I have met people that I was only interested in a committed long-term relationship where you say the sex is the bonus. I've met people where I would totally fuck that guy, but I would never date that guy.
Yeah.
The majority of my relationships are, sometimes they're friends, and, I was married for like 6 months, but most of my relationships are sexual in nature. It's like, but most of my relationships are friendships. I'm polyamorous, but I consider them, they're friends, but we're sexually attracted to each other, so why not fuck?
So
well, and see, that's why that is actually one of the reasons why I had no hesitation bringing it up, because I know you are polyamorous, and I think part of it, and I will be honest, is because of my religious upbringing. And that has affected the way that I look at sex and sexuality, and it's in some ways warped the view that I have towards it. But do I slight Korrine in any way, shape, or form? No, I just don't quite understand it. I just can't seem to wrap my head around it. I try. It's just like with transgender issues. I've been part of the community since I was a toddler. I've known since I was 5 years old I've been gay. I didn't know the word till I was about 18 because it was not really talked about. I didn't know until I actually went to college, and believe it or not, I went to a Christian college. That's where I learned about, quote, being gay. But to me, it's just my only interest growing up until I finally retired from hockey was hockey. That's all I gave a fuck about. I could care less about anything else. Everything I did, my whole life centered around hockey. I wasn't that great of a player. I never would have made the Olympic team. At least I don't think I would, unless I was the John Ruzioni of the team. But that's where my focus lied. And as I got older, my focus became more and more nerdy. Yeah. But that's just me. And that's the thing. That's what makes, partnerships, whether it's gay, straight, or whatever, so unique, is that we're all different. And for somebody like I can't think of the group now, any of the anti-gay groups to try to hyperbolize human sexuality as being, this one thing, it's not. For every person, there is a different, and they just can't see. They want, and this is why I say that their control of sexuality, their control of marriage within the church, is a means of manipulation and control. Is if they can demonize sex and sexuality and loving, committed relationships, they control you. And that's why, you know, sexuality has become such an issue. If they can't control sex or sexuality, or women's reproductive health, or women's sexuality, they cannot control you. And that's why the abortion issue, as a sidelight, is so important. They lose control of that. They're trying to manipulate and control women. They want you barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. That's what they think, you know.
I very, very much agree with that. And I think it's really a shame that people are so sexually repressed, because it's one of our biggest instincts is to have sex. And I mean, sex is such an amazing thing. I mean, it's raw, it's just, it's fucking awesome. And people feel so shamed about it. What shame is there in doing something that's so enjoyable? Why is there shame?
And that's why they had to bring fucking God into it. It's like, well, you're pissing off God if you're doing that. Because otherwise, the instinct, and look at, okay, so I'm a prime example, because when I was at the height of my religious fervor, and that's when, you know, I was going to Bible camp and going to Bible study, and I was telling my little brother, who was like 9 years old, that he had to repent or he was going to hell and all of that. But when I was 16 years old and I got with my boyfriend at the time, Jesus went out the fucking window. I wanted to get laid, and I didn't care how. And it was only because we couldn't get birth control without everybody fucking knowing. So we didn't actually have sex until we were in university, and we were actually broken up by then. We became friends with benefits for a few years. But at the time, I was 16 years old. I was thumping that Bible just as hard as anybody, but as soon as I got making out with my boyfriend, I'm like, Jesus, who? I want to get, like, that was it. And of course, some fundy is going to come along and say, well, you never really cared about Jesus. Yeah, I did. I really believed that shit, and I really cared about Jesus, but it was like, and maybe it was because I was 16 years old, but when I got making out, it was like a switch went off, and I was like, I didn't know anything about no Jesus or nothing. All I was like tunnel vision, like, I want to get laid now, kind of, you know, that was it. And it, so they really have to crank up the, you know, guilt factor to counteract that. I was very, very fortunate because my family was moderately religious, but the whole, I mean, let's be honest, my parents got pregnant, you know, out of wedlock and had to get married. Well, they thought they had to get married and all that because, well, you can't have a baby if you're not married, whatever. They had some of that going on, but there was never any guilt associated with sexuality. Now, I mean, my mother handed me a book and was like, here, this is, you know, how we're, you know, go read the book. But there was none of that, you know, you're going to make Jesus cry if you have an orgasm bullshit going on. So I was very lucky that way. But a lot of people are raised where, you know, even if you're a little kid and you're like, oh, wow, hey, I got stuff down there, and the parent comes along and, like, slaps their fingers and is like, don't do that, that's dirty, then you're fucked up for decades and decades and sometimes for life. Because
I was told, just do it in privacy. Go to private and do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is good.
I started masturbating at a very, very young age, like 6 or 7. Once I learned how to rub, you know, my crotch against something, it was like, oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. I had no idea what that was, but it was freaking awesome. And also my mom, to her credit, when I became a teenager, you know, even though my parents are religious, went and my mom's like, all right, well, we'll take you and get you birth control and this stuff. And it was so hard for her to do. But, she did it. And I give her so much credit for that. And, I never really felt.
Yeah, see, I mean, growing up for me, I mean, it was probably 10 or 11. It was around when I first started my dot, which was, I was pretty young then. And the whole idea of sexuality was, here's a book, that's it. That is it. Even to this day, I think I once made a joke with my father. We were at a party, we were both drinking. It was, I think, my cousin's wedding shower or something. And my brother, I believe, was married, and I don't think he had kids yet. So we're talking a good 20 years ago. And we were talking about grandkids, and I had jokingly said to my dad, and my dad and I never talked about it, ever. And it was never mentioned. I just jokingly said spit baby, not even thinking that I basically just outed myself to my father. and the look on his face was precious, because it was just, sexuality just was not talked about.
Right.
I mean, I had sex ed in high school. I could, as I said, I could give two shits. If it didn't have a hockey stick or a hockey puck attached, I could care less. I mean, that's literally all I lived for. That, and it caused problems later
You're
on.
You're such a better hoser than Deb is.
I used to enjoy playing floor hockey in high school. Is that acceptable?
Okay, well, you got part of your hoser status back, but
and
I
figure skated for years too. I'm just saying.
Oh no!
Figure skating does not count.
Yes, it does. God damn it.
Oh my gosh, Beth, rein her in.
I try. But yeah, and that's why
I can still do a spin. Damn it.
I can spin too, but I don't fall very graceful.
Anyway, she was trying to make a thought.
Which I totally lost. But I think that's why, I mean, I joke with Deb when we were talking, what was it? We were talking about a couple weeks ago with Daryl Ray's new book. And I said, well, I'll just sit in the corner and blush the whole time, because I think it was the first time you came on our show. It was like, well, I'll just be sitting back in the corner blushing. But that's what I was raised with. And it's so hard because, I mean, it's very hard for me, because it's just not something I think about. I could give two shits about it. And some of it, yes, is my upbringing. And what a lot of people don't realize is that I was raped at 13. And what makes it even more complex, especially for Christians, and they can't quite wrap their heads around this, is we've all heard the old adage, oh, you must have been raped as a child, or you're mistreated by a man. No, actually, I was raped by a woman and mistreated by a woman. So there goes your pet theory out the window. And that's had a lasting effect on how I view things, and that's why I have not read his book yet, but Daryl Ray's book, when he deals with sexuality, and why I think that it's such a control mechanism within the church, especially the Catholic Church more so, but like even when I was Pentecostal, I mean, oh my God, if you had even one thought about sex or sexuality, they shut it down. You couldn't even bring the topic up, and that's what I grew up with. And it's just like, I mean, I won't say it. I mean, I know people that had it 10 times worse than I. I mean, they, like you said, the hands were slapped, or
actually, Chris Sampson has a little. He's mentioned that Deb, if parents slap their kids while they're jacking off, might be priming them for the BDSM scene. Now, I was never slapped off, and yet I am a complete sub, and I like, the whole pain aspect. And the depths I can go are pretty damn low.
And
let's just say.
And from for lack of a better word, purely academic standpoint, that totally fascinates me. But as far as the sexuality or the sex of it, I could give two shits. It's like,
Well, let me tell you.
Do you think that you're like closer on the spectrum to asexual?
who knows? I don't even try to think. I'm just me.
Well, if you want any more education on the whole BDSM thing, you got two people right here that could probably clue you in on a few things. Just saying.
Yeah. Deb and I know our shit. Except no, that's my one no. No scat. No scat play.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh,
Nope.
no.
I mean, if somebody wanted me to try the furry thing, I'm open. I'll try those things. But I draw the line at scat.
Yeah. I'm like, that's on a whole other. You better just keep that in the other town or something.
But
I can't even be friends with you now.
Could you imagine fundamentalists, of whatever religion? It really doesn't matter because they're all the same, basically. Even having a conversation like this?
No.
Oh my God.
Oh, by the way, Chris Sampson says you got 3 people who can educate you.
There you go. But I'm someone, I like getting waterboarded. So, I mean, I'm a sick fuck, but there's just...
That's okay. Yeah, no, that's just beyond you. Yeah, we'll just leave that.
Well, there's one person I know that can match my freakiness, and that's Miss Callie Wright.
That doesn't surprise me in the least.
I even gave her some of my. I gave her a ball gag because since I got bonding on one of my teeth, I can't use a ball gag anymore. So I was like, oh, well, I have this brand new one. Callie, you're a freak. You want this?
Awesome.
I even got a picture. I was oh, it's awesome.
Oh man, we should. Yeah, we should.
I love that woman.
Absolutely. Did you guys see the video from her when they went to Pride?
No.
I saw bits and pieces. I didn't watch the whole thing yet.
She and Celeste walked right up to all of the religious protester fucks and made out right in front of them. It was awesome.
That's what I thought, but I didn't.
Oh gosh, I love them so much.
That's what kills me. Like I look at the video that you played, and it's like, whether it be Islam, whether it be Christianity, whatever, that's what they need. It needs to be in their face. They need the reality of what's really going on. I mean, 10 years ago, I could never see me having a conversation like that. I would literally be sitting in the corner, shaking my head. I mean, and that's the funny thing. I mean, since being a little bit more vocal and being exposed to people like Korrine, being exposed to people like you, being exposed to people like Kelly. I mean, I know I bring up Kelly quite a bit, but really, what she's been able to teach me is amazing, because I look at things. Yes, I'm supportive of the trans community. I always have been, basically. But she's brought issues to my eyes that I never really thought about. I mean, there's people like Dave Foda and individuals on his timeline where we've gotten into conversations that I've never even thought about. Yep. Or, when Dave, you and I used to talk, I mean, I would sit back, I would literally ponder some of the shit you guys were talking about, even though I was sitting in the corner blushing about it. But it's made me think, it's made me think, and religions like Islam, like Christianity, especially the extreme uber fundamentalists like what I grew up with, don't allow for that. They want stagnation. And that's why if you look at the ruling today from the Supreme Court, why it's so important, there was a ruling just down in Texas where basically the state Supreme Court there gave carte blanche to people that Christian homeschool and said they don't have to learn diddly shit.
I know. I'm like, oh, poor R and Ron.
Okay.
Like freaking out.
Oh, Arn's probably pulling his hair out. He has lots of hair. He has more than I do.
We have our friend Nephilim here who says that sex is the single greatest reason that people reject God and declare themselves an atheist. Well, no, actually it was history that did it for me, but
you know what? It's a darn good reason.
Yeah, if there's going to be a reason, hey, I'm all for it.
I'm not mad at that.
The whole not existing thing has a lot to do with it, but hey, if you want to go for sex, whatever, you know.
You know what? It's as good a reason as any. I mean, religion was made up by man.
There's a case in point right there of using sex to control another person's thought and action. Thank you, Nephilim Free. You just gave us the prime example of how Christianity specifically uses sex and sexuality to control and manipulate another person.
Did Chris Sampson just call me a prude?
Chris, I'm not sure. Where is that?
I think he's got the wrong person.
No, he did.
You also used the wrong your. It should be you apostrophe R.
Grammar.
Well, don't take mine.
You spelled my name wrong.
Well, Neffy there, you know. He just, like you said, prime example, trying to make us feel bad about sex because, that's why you get rid of God. No, God's fake. So
God disappeared long before.
No, sex. I'm sorry. No guilt about sex here.
Let's just use our friends the Catholics as a lovely example of what celibacy can do for you.
Woohoo!
Just saying.
Paid out over $3 billion in the last 50 years to silence the, we'll say critics, for lack of a better word, of the church. No.
Yeah, funny that. And did you guys see just last week, Montreal finally decided that they should have a policy that priests and children shouldn't be alone together. I'm like,
yeah, I saw that.
And actually, I didn't even know you were going to do that story, and I texted you, and I said, good for them, man. Because, you know what? The Catholic Church ain't going to do anything about it besides send them to a different parish. So, you know what?
But this it was the diocese, which is part of the church. So this is the church.
Yeah.
Like,
really?
Many hundred years later gone, maybe we have a problem.
And just one caveat I want to throw on, because it is something I track. It's not just the Catholic Church.
Oh no, we've got
no.
The Mormons.
Yeah, I mean, the Mormons are having trouble. All Jehovah's Witnesses are, and your smaller denominational church. This is just not a Catholic issue, and
they're just
it actually got some
example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the things. Some of the criticism I take, and it's like, if you look at my blog, I don't just highlight the Catholic Church. In fact, I avoid the Catholic Church because it's an everyday occurrence.
Yeah.
There is at least 3, 4, 5 cases of where somebody is either criminally through the court system being charged or being sued by a victim.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of changed my focus to where it's not just the Catholic Church where I'm focusing on. I mean, it's occurring worldwide. It's not just the U.S. It's occurring. Australia has a horrid problem.
Yes.
It's occurring in Southeast Asia, and it's not just Christianity. It's happening with Hinduism. It's happening in the Chinese and Japanese religions, the Far Eastern religions. It's anybody with power. They are using sexuality or sex as a weapon. And that's what the church, whether it be Christian, non-Christian, whatever, is using. It's becoming a weapon. And they're using their authority, their power over their minions, and using sex as the weapon to control them. And that's all they got.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies, we better wrap this up or Corinne's going to turn into a pumpkin.
I'm wide awake. I was planning on staying up and studying.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good because she's always bugging me about being a vampire all the time. So, you know.
Yeah, well, now I just get, 4 hours of sleep a night.
Okay. Well, it is past time, though, so we should look at wrapping things up. So, Corinne, you said you were going to plug the hell out of Dave, so you may as well get started.
All right. Well, I already ordered the butt plug on Amazon, so that's
Right.
fruit.
No. You have to go to Divine Interventions and order butt plug baby Jesus to go with the jackhammer.
Oh, don't you know? That is not.
All right.
Our podcast, The Wayward Atheist, which is formerly The Atheists, as in Canada, eh? We're now known as The Wayward Atheists, and that is, oh my gosh, too many co-hosts. It's a bunch of hosers, a Kiwi and me, the Yank. I'm also on a show called Lucifer's Ladies, both spelled with a Z at the end. And that is me, is Ashley BenRR, and
it's a Z for my hoser friends, just so you know.
Zed. Zed is a wizard in the Sword of Truth series. Okay, getting back. Yeah. So Lucifer's Ladies, at Wayward Atheists, at Lucifer's Ladies, and I check the accounts every once in a while.
Excellent.
It's a work in progress. Let's just say that. But Wayward Atheist is definitely up and running, and we just had Daryl Ray on, and this week we're having Bryce Blankenangle on. So
our friend
and
the Vaccinator.
Yeah, and our co-host, the Newfie, Edward Smith, is an ex-Mormon as well. So I think it should be a good conversation.
Excellent. Yes, that's right, because one of the three hosers is, in fact, a Newfie.
Yes. A real Newfie. I was like, I can't believe I'm meeting a Newfie.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, Beth, where do we find you?
The easiest way is on Twitter under Dune9998. Excuse me. And that connects to my blog, which is Havoc and Chaos, which I'm just slowly starting to get back into, as it was pissing me off beyond no doubt. And that connects to Facebook, and that's under Beth A. Hambridge. And I pretty much will accept anybody to a degree.
All right.
To save on hair, some people I don't. So.
What about Donald Trump?
Fuck Trump. He's a newbie baby Christian.
Or as that lady in Scotland said, Trump is a cunt.
I've said that many times. I'm with her.
Yeah.
Well, you can also find me on Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, which airs...
Holy crap, really?
Yeah, really, crap. A part of the Crap Crew, which airs at 12:05 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Talk to Shujin, man. He's the one that picked the time schedule. But and our friend Chris Sampson from the Q&A here is also part of the Crap Crew, and you can come out and listen to the 6 to 8 of us discuss all manner of things. You just missed the Power of 10 show, though. That's where we actually get to say things like fuck a whole lot more than when we just slip up and say it anyway. But and then he tells that one has to fix it in post, which I'm thinking he never probably does, but that's a whole other story. So Holy Crap the Vlogcast, holycrapthevlogcast.com. And that's, again, Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m.
And, Shujin, next time you have a Power of 10 show, can I please be on that one? Because I already know that I always flip up at least 5 times.
Yeah. I will pass that along in case he doesn't see this.
Okay.
All right.
Please let me cost you.
The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is, again, per our friend Along Black Cock, who was so kind to donate.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Kind enough to donate to our Patreon because he would very much like for us to talk about the Taylor Scholarship, which is out of Utah, and they are a group through the Whitefields Educational Foundation, and it's a fund for people who are leaving religion and would like to see a professional to help them through that time. Whitefields Educational Foundation does do that. The Taylor Scholarship provides funds to assist with that, because even though Whitefields tries to keep it as cheap as possible, there are still fees, and there are still people who have need that just can't afford to pay even the fees that Whitefields requires. So the Taylor Scholarship, if you go to whitefieldseducational.org, and you can find information about the Taylor Scholarship and where you could donate to that, and that helps people escaping religion who really just need to talk to somebody about what they're going through. Along Black Hawk says he sent several people to them for assistance, and so we're happy to talk about it and support them as well. So please give that a look. And also, so next weekend, I'm going to be heading to Pride Toronto, which is one of the biggest prides in North America. I'm really excited about that, and I am taking my niece for her first time as a trans woman, her first time ever at Pride, and we're going to go. And actually my husband's going to go because, well, he's like, hey, it affects somebody, like we were talking about, it affects somebody I know, I need to get involved. Which, you know, that's awesome. So he's going to come, and we're going to have a great weekend. And so I'll probably have lots to talk about that. So if you're heading to Pride Toronto, if you check out on Facebook, there's something called the Atheists and Light Network, which is a Canadian network of atheist and skeptical groups. We have, it's AEON is the short form. We have a Facebook group, and you can find out about our monthly Unbelievable Brunch that we have in Toronto. We're having that on Sunday before we go to Pride, so if you wanted to catch up with us, check out the Aeon Network on Facebook and the event. And, you know, hey, more people the better if you're in Toronto next weekend. That'd be pretty cool. So I'm really excited about that. I haven't actually seen the Pride Parade since the 90s, which is sad. We went to Pride last year, but we were kind of lazy fucks, and we didn't get out of bed in time to catch the parade. And it poured rain the entire day. So, and I'm looking to. Oh shit! I misplaced my water bottle. Oh wait, hang on.
Wait. The
you got
reason
blue one this
why.
Yeah, I'm going to go because I got this at Pride last year. So I'm going to be looking to add to the water bottle collection. Maybe a blue one this year. We'll see what we can.
Well, we need some for the bachelorette party.
We do. We do. I'll see what I can come up with. I will indeedy. Do we have, last year they had pink, yellow, and blue. I don't know. Do you have a color preference?
I really love yellow.
All right. Well, if I can find a yellow, we will see what happens.
Ashley will want a pink. Susie will want a blue.
Okay.
Kayla probably pink. And
Okay.
Callie might join, and I'm going to say yellow so she can match me.
Okay.
Because I love Callie.
Because last year, when I got this one, they were 2 for $8. So if I can get that deal again, I will be very, very happy, girl. So we will see. So anyway, I think that about does it for this week. As I say, we'll see you next week. I'll talk to you a bit about Pride. I might have some pictures to share, and we'll figure out whatever the fuck else we're going to talk about next week. So until then, I will leave you as always.
BDSM.
Yes. With Dave fucking Foda's Humanist Creed. We'll see you next week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.